Why? Oh,
we're live.
And we're live. Hello, everybody. We are live this evening, first day in July. We're here with Danielle, of course, and my good friend, Carrie. And Carrie, I'm so excited that you agreed to do this with us tonight. First, let's get this out of the way. We're going to say that, Danielle, you want to do the disclaimer? Because I don't know what
Sure. For the rest of this conversation and any live that we do, this is not healthcare advice for anyone. We're sharing our experiences and our hearts, and we hope you glean from them and, consult with your regular physician and go from there.
Perfect. Thank you. So Carrie is a good friend. She's become a good friend of mine, and I'm so very blessed to know her. She is a very super special person. She's one of my admins for our support group, and I really couldn't do the work that we do in the support group without her. And she is a fellow breast implant illness survivor, and she's a recent COVID-19 survivor. We're going to hear her testimony tonight about her experience with her breast implants, how they made her sick, when she had them out, and how she was healing. And in that whole process, she ended up getting sick with COVID and how she managed that among all of the other chronic illnesses that she is still battling. So, Carrie, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a huge honor to be here. I never imagined in a million years that I'd be on a live video chat talking about implants. But this is my first time. I'm happy to do it. As much as I can help anyone with my story, that's really my goal, and I'm really excited to be here. So thank you both for having me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And so we're actually streaming live into 2 different groups right now. So we'll be getting a nice mix of people here joining us. And I believe it's okay, Carrie, if they ask questions. Yes, you're cool with that?
Yes, definitely. I know I have a fan club. Hopefully they've joined. Some friends and family and even some coworkers, I'm sure, are here. So get ready to hear all my details of what's been happening the last 5 years of my life.
Awesome. It's so nice to hear that you have such supportive people, because that is such a huge part of this whole process. It's just a gift to have people that you can trust and lean on during this time. So,
I totally agree.
Yeah. So, Carrie, all right. So start us off. When did you get your implants?
I got my implants in 2010, and really just kind of taking the time to reflect about my journey. Why did I get implants? Probably like most women, it was maybe feeling a little bit insecure about certain things. And I know I personally had body image issues my entire life. So after, a bad breakup, like we all probably have had at one point or another, I was very dedicated to the gym, working out 5 days a week. I had finally gotten down to my goal weight. So I said, let me give myself a gift and get a pair of implants. My friends are doing it. They love them. May as well just join the club. So that was back in 2010. And I went with someone in Philly who was very well known and very well thought of. And I went for the Mentor saline under the muscle implants and thought I was, on to the next chapter of my life.
Right.
How old were you then, Carrie?
In 2010, so now I have to give my age now.
You don't have to.
In my mid-20s.
You're young. That's awesome.
She is young. All right. So So then did you feel good right away? Did you love them? How did you feel about your boobs?
I can remember the day of surgery, coming off of the anesthesia, whatever I could remember from that day. It definitely felt like there was a foreign object in my body, and it took several months for them to really feel like they were part of me. It just always felt like there was something disconnected in my body, but eventually they kind of fell into place and just became part of my body. And really didn't think much of it. I think prior to implants, my only health issue was a hypothyroid, which, is not very uncommon. And really just never thought much of it. I was living my life. I got into a new relationship. We were taking vacations. I was growing in my career, going through school, getting my MBA, and life was generally very good.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You wanted
When you say hypothyroid, did they diagnose it as Hashimoto's or anything, or did
No.
they just say?
Yeah, like early in my 20s, I had some regular lab work done, and it showed that, I had a very small issue with my thyroid. So I started taking a low dose of levothyroxine or Synthroid. And then over the years, my dose gradually kept getting increased. But really, even to this day, I'm not taking a very high dose, but Hashimoto's now.
Did they ever test something called TPO or any of the antibodies that may or may not be associated with?
Not at that time. And yeah, not at that time. And I really didn't have any problems for them to dig deep during those days.
Right.
Yeah. Good to know.
So when did you start, like how long were you good for? Or decent?
I want to say, now that I've rewound the tape and really looked into what now is a very large binder of medical tests and documentation, as I've tried to put my whole puzzle together, I started having issues, I want to say in 2013. And with, during that time frame, I think it was abdominal pain, a lot of colds and flus that I never really thought much of. And then in 2015, it got progressively worse, where in the spring of 2015, I started having like electric shock sensations in my thighs, where I was just walking down the street and I would have this very severe electric pain in my legs. It would stop me in my tracks. I'd have to stand still, and then it would kind of fade away. Went to the doctor. He's like, "Oh, you're low on magnesium. Here's a magnesium supplement." Well, that never really did anything. Then I started to get these strange rashes on one side of my back and some ulcers on the roof of my mouth on the same side as the rashes were on my back. My nails, what's that?
I said, keep going. Yeah.
And then, so I went to the doctor again, of course, my primary, and he's like, "Oh, it's shingles. Here's some lotion to put on your back." I'm sure it was an ointment. That didn't work. So 3 or 4 rounds of these, he's like, "Okay, go to the dermatologist." And they checked it out, couldn't figure out what it was, just probably shingles, but people usually don't get shingles 4 times in a row. So just kind of moved on from there. And then by fall of 2015, it was just like a regular day at work. I'm sitting there, middle of the afternoon. All of a sudden, I get this intense head pain like I've never experienced in my life. And then it felt like someone was pouring water on my head. And I was convinced my brain must have been bleeding. It just felt like there was water dripping. My head was hurting. So I left work. I don't know how I made it home. Had my husband take me to the emergency room. They ran some tests, couldn't really find anything, sent me home. And then from there, over the course of August through November, it was like a whirlwind of problems. I was in and out of the emergency room. They hospitalized me twice. The one time I was in the hospital, I couldn't walk. My hands were curled up. I couldn't stretch out my fingers. I had numbness and tingling down my spine. It was a complete nightmare. So really, and maybe I'll just have to read off the symptoms because it's hard to remember without writing it down. I had abdominal pain, back pain, migraines, dizziness, felt like I was going to pass out, off balance, internal vibrations, like I felt like there was electricity running through my legs, muscle twitching, brain fog, acid reflux, fatigue, weakness, loss of muscles in my hands, food sensitivities, muscle stiffness, joint pain, heart palpitations, chest pain, sleep issues, hair loss, more rashes, eye floaters, ear ringing, and of course my famous electric shock. So rounds and rounds of tests, MRIs, CAT scans, EMGs, every test you can imagine. And they really couldn't find anything. They're like, okay, you have anxiety. I'm like, well, I have anxiety because you can't figure out what the heck is wrong with me. And now I have to take a leave of absence for work and try and collect myself, but really have no direction as to what could be happening in my body.
Right, right. Now, from the time that you were doing okay with your implants to the time to this time that you're explaining now, did you have anything traumatic happen? Was there any like life event that may have triggered this severe immune reaction?
I did have quite a bit of stress. I had a few deaths in my family in 2015. So looking back, that could have been part of why everything kind of woke up. And then there's been speculation that I could have had Lyme disease dormant in my body from being a child living in northern Minnesota. Ticks were on my body my whole childhood. It was like no big deal, just pluck them off and keep it moving. And they thought maybe that was just sitting dormant. My body was keeping it in check. And then during a stressful time, it woke up. And then with the implants, it was just too many things for my body to fight. But it probably took, so many doctors thought I had Lyme disease, and every test kept coming back negative, which anyone who's had Lyme disease suspected, you've probably had the standard Western blot test. It's, doesn't show enough bands, so it's not an issue, supposedly. So it was only when I had at-home nursing care, because I was in such dire condition, that my at-home nurse thought, you know what, this really has to be Lyme. Let me connect you with a Lyme specialist. Started seeing her. She did more in-depth testing, was really sure I had Lyme. So I treated for that for probably 2 years with antibiotics and herbals, which probably completely destroyed my microbiome, unbeknownst to me. But that's
Wow.
kind of, part of the story.
Did you ever test positive? And did you ever do the co-infections at the same time?
Yeah, so I did if anyone's familiar with IGeneX, again, I don't have any financial interest in any of these things that I might mention. It came back indeterminate for Lyme. And then for the co-infections, what's the one that Rocky Mountain spotted fever came up of all things? So that was pretty eye-opening also.
Wow. I guess I never realized that it was so bad that you had at-home nursing care, Carrie. I really, wow.
Yeah, I absolutely could not function. I had people like my husband and my mother helping to take care of me, and certainly they needed to continue working. So a few days a week, I would have a nurse come in, help me. I had a physical therapist come into my home and help try and get me back on track. And then I had to go in person to physical therapy for a period of time before I could return to work.
Wow.
Okay, so how did you find out that it was your implants?
Well, as we all are on social media right now, Instagram became popular at some point, at least in my life. And I was just browsing one day and I came across this woman who had Lyme disease and implants, and she shared a story about how she couldn't start healing from the Lyme disease until she removed her implants. And that was really what first sparked my attention. But I'm like, oh no, that can't be it. But I did schedule an appointment with the surgeon who did my implants, and he completely dismissed me. He's like, oh, it's probably the Lyme. It could never be the implants. They're safe, and the FDA approves them. And I'm like, okay, I just have Lyme and anxiety, so let me go about my way. But then I started, really thinking about it, and I started to notice, and maybe I just had hyper awareness that there were a lot of women with the same story. And I ended up finding the larger breast implant group and probably sat there watching for about 6 months, and everything just started to make a ton of sense. And I don't know if it was Tara or someone else from the group found me, as a lot of women, including myself, are very desperate for answers, in a post in the larger group, and said, hey, I don't know where you are, but we have this Northeast group. If you're interested, you can get quicker answers and more direct information about doctors in the area. So I'm like, okay, sign me up, go over there. And that's how I found Tara in the group. And really from there, that's when everything started to turn around.
Yeah, I want to know who that person was, because I think I might know. Well, maybe I don't, but I want to know who the Lyme breast implant person was. Do you remember?
I do, and I actually tried to look her up before this call, but I think I could not find her on my Instagram, so I don't know if she got rid of her account, but she's definitely still on Facebook in the larger group. And she's
on the really? So her first name isn't Courtney? Just curious.
No.
Well, there's another one.
There's sadly so many people stories.
So yeah, I mean, I think that so many people are probably watching Carrie and just thinking, this is, this, I can relate to so much of your story. And like I always say, we're all pieces of the same story, because there's so many similarities. And you have a really nice comment from someone that you might know, Clint. And he says, you have handled so much and continue to perform at such a high level, despite all of these side effects, and he's proud of you. So I think that's a really nice testimony to, because I agree. Like I said before we started this live, you always appear to have yourself so put together, and, and then you'll say, oh, I'm really having such a hard day. And I think, you look so freaking fabulous. How do you do that? So, but I know we all put on this front, especially when we're sick and we're being told that it's in our heads, and we think, okay, so it's in my head. I'm just going to continue to do what I do. And so you're just a true warrior. So I'm just going to pause and say that for a moment. So now, okay, your original surgeon dismissed you. So obviously you did an explant with him.
No, he said that he could take them out, but he didn't think it was a problem. And as much as I had already gone through, I'm like, I don't want to see this man in the operating room if he doesn't even believe that these things are making me sick. I can't feel confident even if he tells me he's going to perform the surgery in the proper way, when he doesn't think that they're a problem to begin with. So that's when I decided it's more expensive to go another direction, but at least I'll know it's done properly and I won't have any regrets.
Absolutely. Okay. So when was your explant?
My explant was June 24th, 2019. So I just celebrated my 1 year explant anniversary, which I can't believe it's already been a year.
Holy crow.
Yeah. Yep. Congratulations on your year.
Yeah.
And so,
Go
ahead. Sorry, did somebody have a question? No, you're good, Danielle. So
no. I'm just thinking of like what's coming next, and like I didn't realize it was just a year.
Yeah, she just hit a year, and so has it been bumpy? Has it been smooth? Tell us about your because not everybody, but I think now our community is starting to really feel more comfortable sharing that this is not like, okay, I got my implants out and I'm good. That's just the beginning. And I know that you've had that similar experience. So tell us how this last year has been for you.
Well, I would think all women hope that you get them out, you wake up, your life is better, no turning back, you just move forward. But for me, that was not what happened. And I had 24 symptoms when I explanted, and today 14 of the 24 have improved in some way. So I believe that's a huge win. For the first 3 months, I had a lot of flare-ups of my symptoms. And then I had a solid 3 months where I felt like a brand new person, better than I had felt in 5 years. And then I, again, had a traumatic life event. Unfortunately, in November, my uncle who helped raise me passed away in a very devastating way, unprepared. And I think that set off so much stress that I flared up, and I'm still really not through flare, and then COVID on top of that, which I know we'll get to. Yeah, that's kind of what happened. But it was not a smooth ride. I say this in the group all the time. It's a roller coaster. Hopefully it's not a roller coaster for everyone, but it is. And for a while I felt guilty that I couldn't go into the group and say, I'm cured, I'm fine. You're going to explant, you're going to feel wonderful. But I believe in being transparent, and you're going to have issues, and maybe you're like me and you have underlying problems that you'll figure out down the road. But without having the explant, your body can't address all these other issues in the right way.
Carrie, did you have lift or fat transfer?
I did not. I was convinced I needed a lift. Two very well-known surgeons. I don't know if we're saying surgeons' names here. Are we, Tara?
You can say your surgeon's name, but everybody else, I guess, we'll leave out.
Yeah, so Dr. B and another very well-known surgeon in the Baltimore market, I'll say, both advised against a lift. So I didn't get a lift. They said, you're so sick, just get them out, focus on healing, and then if you want to come back later and get a lift, you could definitely do that. And at this point, I don't want to go under the knife for anything that I don't have to, that's not medically necessary, and I'm very happy with my results. So I'm glad I didn't.
That's actually a brilliant, both of them, in my opinion, advised you well. Not that my opinion matters.
Yes,
but,
it does. You're allowed to give.
No, I don't mean it like that. I don't mean it like, I just meant like, yeah, I am now, in retrospect, that all that inflammation, you'd be lucky to have retained the fat transfer, because it's the stem cells, right? Like, and you need to treat them like babies, and you can't have inflammation, and or you can, but like it's harder to nurture them in that capacity. And then it's just more incisions to heal and things like that. So,
right. And I agree with you, Carrie. I think unless it's medically necessary, just the fact that your body is detoxing from the implants and everything else that you've gone through, to go under the knife again, unless really needed, I think is a smart decision on your part on behalf of your body. You have a question here. How many doctors did you explant with before feeling comfortable with choosing the right surgeon for you?
I consulted with two, and they were two that were highly recommended in the group, either from other women consulting or having explants with them. So I felt very confident in both of their ability. And I could have gone with either one and felt very confident in both of their ability to do this in the right way. But I ended up picking my doctor because of distance, and just knowing with the follow-ups, it would be easier to get to him. And if, something happened, I just had, a certain comfort level that I could access him more easily.
Right. I know a lot of women say when you meet with a surgeon, when like, that's the right person for you. And it's funny. I think we all go through getting our implants and our having our augmentations, like, okay, I like my doctor and he's great and he's going to give me these fun boobs. But then like the decision to explant is, you go at it in such a different way with this whole other perspective on life and health and trust and right. I mean, can you both agree to that? Like there's such a level of, you have to trust who is going to do this for you.
Yeah. And I don't even, I don't even know. Is there another word other than trust?
Yeah, probably.
Because it's almost like, and I'm not there yet as far as really being able to define what surrender is, but you just, it's like, it's such a giving up of what I thought, what I want, it's just, there's no other hope. It's more than trust, right?
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
It's like a falling in, and if we were Harry Potter or the Matrix or something, it's like, you don't, at the time of like, just, they give you the Versed or they give you the sedation, you're just like, I don't even know that I hope to come out the other side. It's just what was going to be, right? Yeah. Like, because it can't be any more of the same, or can it? It's like Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, not to be so dramatic, but how was it for you, Carrie?
Well, I think when I was looking for an implant surgeon, I was looking at price point, to be quite frank, and I wasn't really thinking about anything else. I mean, I wanted to go to someone credible, but also how much did it cost was probably first, if not second on the list. But with the explant, I'm like, this is my precious body. I've made it this far. I felt like I was going to die 100 times, and I don't want to die on someone's operating table. But then to your point, like, you're there, you're getting sedated and ready for the operation. You're like, I don't know if my body can handle this, because I'm already at my worst. I feel like I'm going to die, but I really have no other choice but to just take this risk and hope that I wake up in the recovery room. So it is a dramatic experience and event
Yeah.
for sure.
And when you woke up, do you remember your first breath? Or maybe not the first breath, but like what was your, when you, of the breath you remember, like, do you remember anything?
Well, I will say I was talking crazy in the recovery room. That's what I was told, that I was crying and just so thankful to the doctor and the staff. But they wrap you up so tight. You don't know what's going on. You're just in pain and hoping you can get home and start putting the ice packs on. But the day that we were driving to my first follow-up appointment, we're just driving down the road, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. And I didn't even ever think that I couldn't breathe properly,
Right.
but it was as if I was finding air for the first time. And you just never know where all this inflammation is. I mean, my nose must have been so inflamed.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't notice that I was having trouble breathing until I was able to breathe again afterwards. And I was like, oh, wow, I had no idea, So I had that same kind of experience. I'm going to pause for a minute. Sylvia wants to say that you're a very strong woman going through all of this and still keeping a smile on your face. Again, to my point, always, Carrie. Even when I asked you to be admin in our support group and, you were like, yes, but I want you to know I'm still healing. And I was like, wow, she's only, I think it was 7 months out maybe, or was it before then?
It was around 7 months probably.
And I thought, oh, wow, because your comments, you always so supportive and so loving and giving of yourself. And that doesn't always happen within that first year because we're all still so wrapped up in our own healing, which I'm not holding that against anybody. But, you're just a very classy gal.
I appreciate that. And I don't plan on crying today, but I definitely do feel a little emotional just knowing I do have such a great support system. And, I have a mentor, Clint, who's on the line. He's been a career mentor for many years, which, it's a little awkward, when I'm trying to have career mentoring and I'm dealing with all these health problems. And at some point I have to share with him that I'm struggling and I'm still trying to do all these great things that he's giving me advice on, but sometimes I just can't do it in the time frame that we start planning out. And so that's amazing. Not only Clint, but many of my co-workers who have become friends over the years have been incredibly supportive, non-judgmental. I know that's not everyone's experience, and just the outpouring of love and support from family and friends goes a really long way. And if you don't have those people in your life, then join our group or another group in your area, because there are women who will band together and rise up with you.
Even if you live in California. Okay, can you say that? I'm in North Carolina and I'm sorta in the group.
Absolutely. Yeah, we take everybody. We don't, even if you're not in the area, because sometimes, like Carrie knows, we're the first group that people find. So we've had all sorts of requests and we just let them in because we could be their own lifeline. So I'm not going to say, oh, you need to go search this group or whatever. So what was I going to say? Okay. So now before you even hit your year healing, your year explant anniversary, you get hit with COVID. So
Yes.
tell me about that. What were you first feeling? Did you immediately know that it was COVID? Tell me about
was it? Like, what the
Well,
hell?
I think there's a black cloud following me for sure, because I continue getting tested. And just because I overcome a lot of things doesn't mean I want to keep proving that to the world. But I knew when the whole idea of COVID, or it wasn't just an idea, when COVID came into our reality, I immediately became very concerned about it, because no one really knows or knew at that time, what the impact would be, who could be most affected, what their experience is going to be. And then, all these stay-at-home orders go into play. And my husband, unfortunately, is an essential worker, and he works for the city, and he's around emergency vehicles, ambulances, police cars, fire trucks, what have you, including, the mayor and everyone else's vehicle. So just knowing the sheer number of people coming in and out of the vehicles that he was working on, made me very nervous, but there was nothing we could do. His job wasn't going to just let him sit home because his wife could possibly get sick. I mean, I think we're all in the same boat. And then I want to say it was the last week in April, he called me and he said, I feel like I have the flu. I feel like I was hit by a bus. Something's wrong. So I'm like, okay, come home. We put him in the basement. I slept in a separate room. Next morning, he goes to the master. We shut the door. I sit in my office for 2 hours to wait for any droplets that he may have spewed around the house to fall. And then I put a mask on and I sanitized our whole house. So then for 7 days, I brought food and medicine to his door with a mask on, didn't breathe, did a little knock, ran down the stairs. And then it was about the 7th day I was cleaning with this chemical that really bothers my nose. And I'm like, I can't smell this. So I put my nose all the way inside of it, couldn't smell a thing. I'm like, okay, this is not a good sign, but maybe it's just a fluke. Next morning, could not get out of bed, felt like mud. So I called him and I said, may as well come out of the room because not only can I not bring you your stuff, but I need you to now help me. So we ended up just kind of trudging along with these symptoms. He got tested, he was positive. Then I tested on May 8th, was positive. And then on, I want to say May 28th, somewhere in that week, I tested again negative. So it was definitely not a good time at all.
But you made it through.
I did. I'm still alive and I'm so happy.
Thank God. I was so worried about you. You know, we have our own private chat with Christy and you and myself as admin of our group. And I just felt so helpless as, you know, listening to you and you just felt like awful and there was nothing that I could do. And, you know, knowing that your husband is sick too, and the two of you were home trying to care for each other, but not even really able to care for yourselves. And it was a long haul for you, right? I mean, it lasted for several weeks, especially for you, right? Your husband seemed to get over it quicker.
So he said he felt fine after 9 days, and then he started, you know, getting back into his regular routine. But then a couple weeks later, it all kind of started hitting him again in different ways. So our doctors thought either it hadn't completely left his body, or him and I were like passing it back and forth to each other, which I don't think any of us are going to know anytime soon how this virus really acts and what it can and cannot do. So the first 2 to 3 weeks were torture. They were complete torture. Most of every day I could not get out of bed. I found it hard to even get myself to the restroom, and trying to even take a shower felt like I was using every ounce of energy in my body. I had no appetite. I definitely just wanted to sleep the entire time. I couldn't breathe. I have, again, a list of symptoms. I felt like I had burning sensations in my arms. My GI issues were worse. My heart was racing. I already mentioned I couldn't smell or taste. The fatigue, the body aches were like no other body ache I've ever experienced. And then you hear about like the chills and the shaking that's just like so intense. Ear fullness, I felt like I couldn't hear. My nose was completely congested, post-nasal drip. We had most every symptom except fever. So that, I guess, is a good thing, but, you know, definitely wasn't a good time. And then a lot of nights I would wake up gasping for air. I was having night sweats. I had a couple emergency room trips just to make sure I didn't have pneumonia brewing. Thankfully, we did not require hospitalization, but again, you never know how your body's going to react, and the underlying issues that I, like many women, have really puts a lot more fear. And it's a very scary situation. I was just trying to make it to the 14-day mark, which seems to be the magic number. Like if you don't have to get put on a ventilator by day 14, then you're probably not going to expire. But yeah, it's continued to linger. I still have some chest pain, some abdominal pain. I feel like I can't take a full deep breath every time I want to, but most of the scary stuff is behind me, I hope.
You do any alternative, like vitamin C or melatonin?
You had done a bunch of stuff, Carrie. So tell us a little bit about what helped you manage through that difficult time.
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this, but in my long journey to find proper health care, fortunately, I have good coworker whose wife had great success with a functional doctor who I was put in contact with. This woman is amazing, and I'm happy to provide any information about her offline, of course. And she was incredibly helpful during this time. I don't know where I would be if she wasn't helping me. She put me on a ton of different things, but I listed out here the things that I felt were most helpful. So there's this golden flower tea that I was taking. You can look it up or reach out. I can give you more information. So maybe Danielle can help me with my pronunciation here. Liposomal vitamin C, the liquid vitamin C.
Liposomal.
Okay, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Liquid vitamin D with vitamin K. There's another one here, Danielle, quercetin.
Yeah, you're good. Quercetin. Okay. Yeah.
Tiger balm, I was slathering that on my chest and under my nose so I can breathe during the night. Transfer factor multi-immune. I took different throat drops and these On Guard capsules, which again, I have no investment in these companies. Those were tremendously helpful. And then I was doing steams with eucalyptus and thyme oil. That really opened up my airways. That's probably my favorite thing.
Tara, I mean, is it okay to say this lady's name? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
It's your practitioner, and she's done a great job and an awesome thing.
What I would have you do, Carrie, is certainly mention who helped you, and then afterwards put her information in the comments. So
if you want to, not like pressure, but like it's such a, as a practitioner, like it's. It's just nice. It's just a nice way to say thank you for studying all the shit you studied, right? And thank you for, I mean, I know that she probably charged you and stuff, and that's a nice way to say thank you too. But there's not that many reliable, knowledgeable, safe places to go. And if there's any like flag I want to fly is like, who are the solid people of the world. So if it's okay with Tara, then I would love to give her.
I mean, I wish I would have asked her for permission prior to this because I don't know her comfort level. So can I just ask if anyone's interested to reach out to one of the three of us after, and then we can just share it privately. And then if we do this again, I'll make sure to get her sign off before I say she's a COVID expert, because I definitely don't want.
No. And we're not saying to say a COVID expert, but she did some solid things by you. That's all we're saying. And totally do what you feel comfortable with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talk to her first, and then if she's comfortable with it, you can share for anybody who reaches out. So, well, we're so glad that you and your husband both got past that, Carrie, and I'm sorry that happened, and what a crazy experience. I don't even know. This whole COVID thing has been so crazy. There was one other thing I wanted to mention that was brought up. What was it? Oh, someone was wondering if you had gone back to any of your doctors, Carrie, primary doctor, anything, and ever, they're seeing you get better after having your implants. Like anybody who didn't believe you, that then you went back and
TP'd their car or wrote on their window. No, sorry.
That was always my intent to write. I want to write a very well thought out letter and send everyone a copy, because I don't know if I mentioned this. I probably went through 20 to 30 doctors across 4 states. I mean, at one point I was driving 4.5 hours to see a neurologist who I thought could help me. I will say something that was eye opening and, really made me happy was before I did my explant, we all have to go get signed off on by our primary doctor. So I go to his office. I'm like, I'm having surgery. I just need you to sign off that I'm okay with all these things. And he's like, what surgery are you having? And I said, I'm getting my breast implants removed. And I had talked to him about this plenty of times before. And he's like, oh no, they're safe. There's no problem. But this particular day, I don't know what opened his eyes, but he's like, oh yeah, I have been hearing about a lot of women who get their implants out and feel so much better. I'm like, okay, so what about all these other times I've come in begging for help and you've just completely written me off? But even the people at the front desk were like, oh yeah, we saw something on the news. So if it's on the news, I guess it's true. But if it's a human in front of you, then it's not necessarily believable.
Right. Then you're just a crazy person who likes to surf the internet and,
Yeah. And plenty of doctors just think when you go in there that you are looking for medication or to go on like a
Workman's comp
medical.
or
Yeah. So I started going into doctors and saying, my goal is to get better. This is what's wrong. I am career driven. I feel like I'm being stopped and I'm looking for help. I don't want medication. I don't want to quit working. But
right.
it's just a shame.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that you would tell women who are on the fence watching this thinking I'm scared, or what if I don't get better? What would you say to them?
I would say that do your research. We all have to do our research and be comfortable with any decision that we make, whether it's keeping them or getting rid of them. I think we probably all kind of dismiss the idea initially, thinking, I paid good money for these things and I love them, and there's no way they could make me sick if they're FDA approved. I hate to keep throwing the FDA out there like this, but yeah, we just keep hearing from everyone that they're perfectly safe. But if you're having mystery illnesses and are like me, who now working with a functional doctor have uncovered some things that I was never aware were issues, with having the implant still in your body, that's just one more thing for your body to fight. And I honestly, just now having gone through COVID, if I had the implant still, I don't know if I would have recovered this well. And this was a rough recovery in itself. But if I had the implants, what would that have looked like? So I'm just very thankful to have found the group and found Tara and all the women before me who, shared their journey and recommended different doctors, because that definitely put me on the right path. And now I have a chance for, getting my whole health together, which is, still a process, but, we'll get there. And then I just have to give a little plug on this thing. It's called an oximeter. This gave me so much reassurance during COVID. You just stick it on your finger, you can see your pulse and your oxygen level. And if your oxygen level goes below 95, then it's probably time for an emergency room visit. But even if you're having shortness of breath or chest pain, if you have a good amount of oxygen, you're probably okay. Again, not professional medical advice, but you can buy it on Amazon for like $25. So highly recommend.
You're so cute. I love it. That's awesome. I just need to put one comment in particular up here. First of all, you have to go back and read all the comments. You have a ton of support from people coming in. And I got a little choked up listening to your mom, who she's so sweet. My own mom talks all the time about how she was worried that I was going to die. And here, I'm sure your mother watched you be sick with your implants and struggle through your healing process and then be sick with COVID. And so shout out to your mom, because, I think moms are such a great support usually for all of us. I know mine is for me. And so, God bless your mom. She's so sweet. It made me all teary before when I read it. So I wanted you to see it because I thought that was really cute.
Thank you. It's great to have all the support. Like I said, if you don't have it in your personal or work life, definitely reach out to the women who are going through or have gone through the same thing, because everyone kind of bands together and we'll get through it as a team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Carrie, I want to thank you for being here with us tonight. And I want to thank you for sharing your testimony, your heart, everything that you shared with us. And I want to thank you personally for always being so supportive in our group, to all of our ladies. And what you do is so important within our group. Even if you're having a bad day, you still find the strength to give someone else some encouragement or some love or just anything that you can give, you do. And you do it always so gracefully. So I am grateful to know you and call you my friend. So I'm so glad that you were here with us tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. And Terry, you're one of the people I would say probably saved my life, to be quite honest. If you didn't, carry on the group, I know it was at risk of maybe kind of disbanding at one point, but you have touched my life and countless other women's life. And in turn, we're touching hopefully more lives. And as much as I can do to give back and telling my story may hit home for someone, then it makes all of this pain and suffering a little bit more worth it. So thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And Danielle, thank you for always being my Dr. Oz.
You, my Oprah.
All right, ladies. Thank you guys. Love you both.